You ever notice something weird about money? Like, saving $1,000 can feel almost impossible. You open your banking app, you look at the number. Maybe it's $63, maybe $214, maybe $947 because rent just hit. And you think, how on earth do people ever save thousands of dollars? You tell yourself you'll start next month, or after the next paycheck, or after the credit card balance is lower, or after life just calms down a little. But life never really calms down, does it? There's always something. The car needs fixing. A birthday comes up. Groceries cost more than you expected. Your phone suddenly decides it no longer believes in batteries. And so $1,000 starts to feel like this weird financial mountain. Not Mount Everest exactly, but maybe like a steep hill that somehow keeps getting steeper every time you try to climb it. Now here's the strange part. Ask someone if $100,000 is possible. Most people will say, yeah, not easy, but possible. They'll say things like, yeah, if you invest. Yeah, if you work long enough. Yeah, if you build a business. Yeah, if you just keep saving. So somehow $1,000 feels impossible. But $100,000 feels realistic, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it, because one is literally 100 times bigger, and yet our brains treat them completely differently. And honestly, I spend way too much time thinking about this stuff. My name is Nick, and I'm kind of obsessed with money psychology, why people struggle with small financial goals but somehow believe massive ones are achievable over time. And the truth is, this weird contradiction actually reveals something incredibly important about how wealth is built. Because the problem usually isn't income, it isn't intelligence, it isn't even discipline. The problem is how our brains interpret progress. And once you understand this shift, the mental switch between impossible and inevitable, saving money stops feeling like pushing a boulder uphill. Instead, it starts feeling like rolling a snowball downhill. And that small shift, it can quietly change your entire financial future. Let's start with something that sounds backwards. Small goals often feel harder than big ones. And that's because small financial goals live in the present. Saving $1,000 usually means sacrifice today, not someday. Today. That means saying no to things. Dinner out, a new pair of shoes, upgrading your phone, ordering food instead of cooking. Suddenly, $1,000 isn't just a number. It's 1,000 tiny decisions. And every single one asks the same annoying question. Do you want this now or money later? Our brains hate that question. Because humans are wired for immediate rewards. Psychologists call this present bias. Your brain values a burger tonight more than money 3 months from now. It's not stupidity. It's evolution. Thousands of years ago, future planning meant winter is coming. Today it means maybe my savings account will grow. One feels urgent, the other feels abstract. So the brain does something interesting. It resists the small goal because the pain is immediate. But the reward? Far away. Now let's talk about the weird flip side. Why does $100,000 feel achievable? Because big goals live in the future, and the future is incredibly forgiving. Think about it. If someone says, could you save $100,000 in 25 years? Your brain goes, yeah, probably. Because 25 years is an eternity. Your brain assumes things will improve. Higher income, better investments, more stability, future. You always seems more capable than present. Future you is disciplined. Future you wakes up early. Future you definitely cooks at home more. Future you has their life together. Meanwhile, present you is standing in the grocery store wondering why cereal costs $7. But that distance, that psychological distance, is exactly what makes the big number feel manageable. It's not happening today. It's happening eventually. And eventually removes pressure. Here's something people rarely realize about money. The hardest part isn't getting to $100,000. It's getting to $1,000 because the beginning has no momentum. Think of pushing a car. The first few seconds are brutal. You lean in. Nothing moves. You push harder. Your legs shake, and then suddenly, the car starts rolling. And once it moves, keeping it moving becomes dramatically easier. Money works exactly like that. Your first $1,000 feels impossible because nothing is working for you yet. No investments, no compounding, no habit, no system. It's just you versus your spending habits. But once money starts accumulating, something magical happens. Progress becomes visible, and visible progress is incredibly motivating. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two people. Person A saves nothing. Person B saves $5 a day. That's it. $5, the cost of a coffee. After 1 year, person B has about $1,925. That's the moment the brain flips, because now the number feels real, not hypothetical, not imaginary, real. And once people see real numbers growing, they start doing something powerful. They protect the progress. Suddenly spending $200 feels different, because it's not just $200. It's 10% of your savings. So behavior changes naturally. Saving stops feeling like deprivation. It starts feeling like defense. You're protecting something you built. This is where things get interesting. Saving money eventually stops being about math. It becomes about identity. At first, you think, I'm someone trying to save money. Later, you think, I'm someone who has savings. That shift is enormous. Because once people see themselves as savers, investors, or wealth builders, their decisions start aligning with that identity. They automatically spend a little less, invest a little more, plan a little further ahead. And this is how $100,000 slowly becomes realistic. Not through giant heroic actions, but through hundreds of tiny identity-consistent decisions. Here's the sad reality. Most people quit during the invisible stage. That period where progress feels meaningless. $100 saved, $250 saved, $400 saved. It feels small, insignificant, almost embarrassing. But this stage is actually the foundation of wealth, because habits are forming, systems are forming, discipline is forming. Even though the numbers look tiny, and the people who push through this boring stage, they're the ones who eventually wake up one day and realize they have $10,000, then $25,000, then $60,000. And suddenly the big numbers don't feel impossible anymore. They feel inevitable. So what actually works? Honestly, the trick is almost disappointingly simple. Shrink the goal until it feels stupidly easy. Not $1,000. Start with $50 or $20 or $5. Because the goal isn't the money. The goal is momentum. Once momentum starts, the brain begins cooperating instead of resisting. And small habits stack quickly. $5 becomes $10, $10 becomes $50, $50 becomes automatic investing. And before long, the thing that once felt impossible becomes routine. So here's the strange truth hiding behind this whole idea. The reason $1,000 feels impossible isn't because it's a large number. It's because it represents the beginning of new habits, the beginning of delayed gratification, the beginning of paying attention to money in a way most people avoid. Beginnings are uncomfortable. They feel slow. They feel awkward. They feel insignificant. But once you move past that first stage, everything changes. Momentum appears. Progress becomes visible. Your identity starts shifting. And suddenly the idea of saving $100,000 no longer sounds crazy. Not because you became richer overnight. Not because your income magically doubled, but because the process became familiar, and familiarity removes fear. You know what saving feels like. You know what progress looks like. You know how to recover from setbacks, and that confidence quietly builds over time. So if you're watching this and thinking, yeah, but I still haven't saved my first $1,000, that's okay. Seriously, almost everyone who eventually builds wealth started in exactly that spot. Confused, frustrated, wondering why something so simple feels so difficult. The important part isn't the size of the number. It's the decision to start pushing the car. Because once it begins rolling, even a tiny bit, momentum takes over, and one day, probably sooner than you expect, you'll open your bank account and see a number that once felt impossible. And the strange part? You'll barely remember how hard the first 1,000 felt, because by then, you'll be thinking about the next 100,000.